I now move on to item 9, which is to invite the Principal and Vice-Chancellor to present the annual report of the University. Principal.
Thank you very much, Rector. Good morning. Great pleasure to be here. Up to 1857, the Principal of the University used to be accountable to the Lord Provost of the city and the Curators of Patronage, who used to regularly, and the verb you find in the council minutes is chastise, but mostly verbal, I think, chastise the principal and the professors. That all changed with the 1858 Act, and since then, for the last 157 years, I am obliged by parliamentary legislation to address you once a year and give you an annual review. It is a tremendous pleasure, and I don't perceive any risk of imminent chastisement. So I'm very pleased to do that. I want to start by expressing my great appreciation of the work of the General Council, Charles as convener of the Business Committee, Mike as Secretary, and the Business Committee as a whole, and the other committees have been very helpful to the university, and obviously the high point being, as mentioned, a very, very successful meeting in Toronto, which involved alumni and others. We've had incredibly devoted and hard work from the 3 General Council assessors to the court. That is not an honorific position. We tend to work them very hard indeed, and particularly in demanding matters related to personnel and a whole range of things. So it's really, and obviously the fun bit is processing through the rain to St Giles for important services. But apart from that, the fun bit, there are also some quite serious bits involving university court committees. Greatly appreciate that. And of course, as you're all very well aware, under the 1858 Act, you elected the Princess Royal as our Chancellor. She has been tremendously assiduous, and in the last couple of weeks has carried out 5 different visits in the university, has received about 200 long-term donors, and at the same time engaged with about 30 major donors. So 7 different events. And so we're getting tremendous support from the Chancellor that you elected. So coming on then to the annual review, it's a beautiful document, and I will follow my normal practice, which is I shall basically take you through it quite quickly, starting from the back. One of the key questions is, how many students have we got? Where are they? Well, about 2/3 are in humanities and social science. That would make it on its own quite a big university. Even in science and engineering, with its about 8,000 students, would be the size of a lot of British universities. And since 2002, the student body has been growing at a rate of about 1,000 a year. It's been actually, if you go back, it's been surprisingly steady. You know, some years it's grown by 900, some years it's grown by 1,100, but basically we've been growing at 1,000 a year. And if you look at the level of study, you see 2/3 are undergraduates. For a leading research university, that is slightly surprising. Most leading research universities, the ratio would probably be reversed. It would be 2/3 postgraduate to 1/3 undergraduate. And if you look at the major US research universities, that's more likely what you find. But that model has been working very well for us. If you look at domicile, then, if you like, Scotland is the big third, non-UK is the big quarter, other UK is a sort of regular quarter. And that represents quite a change. We are now, more than 40% of our students come from outside the United Kingdom. For the whole of the 20th century, it was pretty constant at 19%. In 2000, we had 19% of our students came from outside the United Kingdom, and I got curious a couple of years ago and went back in 1900. 19% came. But since then, so that's been changing at a rate of almost 2% a year. So within that overall growth we've been seeing lots of immensely high-quality students from around the world. The 2 most important places for us in that regard are the United States of America, and you see that is our top, and that makes us extraordinary in the UK. That's the biggest number of students from the United States that any British university has. That number of US students represents about 6% of the student body. I mean, you can do the sums yourself, but it's sort of fairly obvious it's about 6%. What is surprising there is if you go into the records, 200 years ago, 10% of our students came from the United States. We were, at the end of the 18th century, the dominant university in the English-speaking world. And if you were in the United States or Canada or elsewhere and you wanted your son, I'm afraid it was your son, there was one exception who was a woman who, but it wasn't her parents who got her in, who snuck in. But apart from Miranda Barry, it was if you wanted your son to be a doctor, and well, the best university in the world was Edinburgh, but for all sorts of other subjects. And then, of course, we've had the recent tremendous growth in students from the People's Republic of China. And when you add those to Taiwan, Hong Kong and Singapore, you see that we've got a very substantial cohort of students whose first language is either Mandarin or Cantonese. Surprisingly strong with Germany. India, not a tremendous number really, particularly when you think back that at the end of the 19th century, we had the biggest cohort of Indian students in the UK. But we're building that, and we're one of the few British universities where the number of students from India and from the Indian subcontinent is actually growing. But so you see the pattern, and one thing to be aware of is, you know, we're all aware that People's Republic of China represents about a fifth of the world, and it's got a really growing economy, and we see it there. And of course, the United States isn't a fifth of the world, but it's got still got by far the world's most successful economy. So that's not too surprising. The demographics and the numbers tell us that India will very soon be like China in terms of proportion of the world. So it would sort of be surprising if we didn't see, if General Council, say in 10 years from now, didn't see India up in the top 3 as well, or maybe India number 1 would not surprise me too much. We are very popular. We had in the round that's in the review more than 55,000 applications. The thing to be aware about these applications is they are, to use the jargon, nearly all competent. That is to say, students are not stupid and their teachers are not stupid. They don't apply to Edinburgh if they don't have the grades. So we are having the difficult task of choosing from more than 55,000 students, pretty much all of whom have or are predicted to have the Highers or A levels that are adequate, more than adequate in most cases, to study at the University of Edinburgh. So that's a hard selection task for us. We let in more in the undergraduate programme than we ever have before, almost 6,000, and we did that partly in response to the immensely high quality of the applicant pool that we had. But it's that is a very large number of undergraduates. And again, if you think through the earlier numbers I showed you, it would be very difficult for us to let in around 6,000 a year, because obviously with a 4-year degree, the undergraduate population would quickly then hit 24,000, which would be very large indeed. But of course, that problem also is an opportunity. It is an opportunity to ensure that the very best students do come here. So that's where we are with that. I'm just going to do a few commentaries on the different chairs, and just to be, really this is a sign of the success of the university and a sign of the range of the university. So personal chairs are given to colleagues who have performed outstandingly well and are already on the staff. And a thing to be aware of is it's harder to get a personal chair in the University of Edinburgh than to get an established chair. I mean, that may be mingy of us, but if you work for us already, you really have got to demonstrate that you are the business. Whereas an established chair will also represent an appointment that needs to be filled. So actually, it is very hard to get a personal chair, and there are some very interesting ones here. So I point to Olga Taxidu, Personal Chair of Drama and Performance Studies. That shows us growing in Edinburgh College of Art. Professor Hedda Wilkinson, Professional Chair of Dementia Practice. And that's a very big area for the University of Edinburgh, is concerned with healthy ageing in all sorts of regards. So the chair titles are quite interesting because they do show where, in some important ways, where the university is going. And these are the established chairs, and you'll notice that mostly here we are appointing into the business school. 4 of the 6 here are in the business school, and 1 is in economics. And that is because we were determined to invest in the business school to up its leadership capability. And then these are honorary professorships, and these are very distinguished people who are giving of their time for free. And so you notice, for example, the School of Law has Sir Gerald Gordon, a very, very distinguished QC. Business School has got Sir David Tweedy, would be regarded by most as the most accomplished and senior accountant figure in the whole of the United Kingdom. So, and the point about these is where you should smile at these because A, they're very distinguished, B, they teach, and C, they don't cost us a penny. So this is a good thing. We go into medicine and veterinary medicine, and again, you get an idea, where are we going? Well, cellular neurobiology, personal chair of undergraduate medical education, so somebody who's distinguished for their work there, cancer therapeutics, clinical neurology. So again, it gives you a picture of where are colleagues excelling, and then where is medicine and veterinary medicine investing? Well, molecular pathology, hematological regeneration, and as I've told you at previous meetings, we are world leaders in the synthesis of human blood. So in a way, it's not too surprising that we're appointing to a chair of hematological regeneration. We are world leaders in zoonotic diseases that jump from one species to another, like HIV/AIDS or SARS. So not too surprising that we're going out to get an international star in the area of infectious disease pathology. And then here are a whole range of very distinguished individuals who are donating time to the College of Medicine and Veterinary Medicine. And then we come on to science and engineering, and again, so where is science and engineering booming? Well, cognitive science, high-performance computing, surface geodynamics, reproductive biology, astrophysics, observational astrophysics. So it gives you a good picture. Where are we really excelling? One doesn't get one of these personal chairs without elaborate process. They will typically involve 6 external referees, 2 external referees nominated by the candidate, 2 external referees chosen by the school, and 2 external referees chosen quite independently. And unless all of the 6 references are quite unequivocal, the people do not get this promotion. So it's a very demanding situation. If you look at professorships, applied hydrodynamics, organic chemistry, and synthetic, very, very, very good appointments. Synthetic biology, Professor Rosser, absolute star. I'm trying to remember whether it is 5 or 6 million, but we appointed her to the chair of synthetic biology. And within months of arriving, she secured, it's of the order of 6 million of research monies in synthetic biology. So when we go externally, we're looking for people who are really very, again, Professor Guy Lloyd-Jones, since he's joined us from Manchester, doing stunningly well in chemistry. So these are really very, very good individuals, and then some key honorary professorships. The one I'm particularly delighted about there is Fabiola Gianotti, who's an extremely charming Italian physicist who has just been appointed Director General of CERN, but appointed Director of General CERN after she accepted the honorary professorship. And she was the person who actually led the practical work. So she was the chief experimentalist working at CERN on a Large Hadron Collider, obviously a very good friend of ours, and really wonderful that she, despite the cares of office that she will get as Director General of CERN, is keen to teach for free in our School of Physics and Astronomy. Lots of international acclaim. We have all sorts of acclaim, and you can read through, but I would just bring out some for you. Sir Adrian Bird, who keeps getting wonderful awards for his work in epigenetics, so very important. And epigenetics, of course, a subject invented in the University of Edinburgh Edinburgh by Waddington in the 20s. Ewan Brechin, who's coordination chemistry, getting the Indian Academy's award. I'm very, very pleased. Stefano Brandini has been made a Cavaliere dell'Ordine del Stella d'Italia, which I think, and that had an appropriate ceremony. If you're going to get an Italian star, you get a nice dinner. It's not there's no messing about. But very, very nice that the Italian government chose to recognise our chair of chemical engineering, just as we were delighted that John Peacock was awarded Asia's most prestigious prize for his work in cosmology, and that Pedro Valli was recognised by ETH, of course ETH being where Einstein researched, for his work. The use of teaching awards, these have a tremendous impact. The Students' Union chooses from a very competitive process, about 2,500 nominations from our student body. So that's a lot of nominations, an elaborate process, and then determining, who is the best research supervisor, best postgraduate tutor, best personal tutor, best at giving feedback. Very highly motivating for the staff. Staff who are nominated take it very seriously. Staff who are runners-up or who get the award are obviously delighted with it. And then university awards. Leslie Yellowlees, also president of the Royal Society of Chemistry, very successful head of the College of Science and Engineering, was made Alumnus of the Year. I'm really excited about Agata Smotnovic. She is an incredibly successful young mathematician. It would be extremely unusual for a woman to receive mathematics highest honour worldwide, but Agata is definitely in the running. And this is somebody who, as well as having a stellar international reputation, is as charming and as devoted to the students as you could wish for. And then Helen Cameron, who, as I mentioned, got a personal chair for her work in medical education, also received the Chancellor's Award. And then we have Catherine Hymans, who are one of a number of very successful up-and-coming young female scientists in the School of Physics and Astronomy. Some of the other awards have gone very well. I'm really pleased that Professor Murray, for his wonderful work in palliative care, particularly related to St Columba's, was recognised. Rebecca Mackenzie, we do the tremendous work, pro bono work in law. It's wonderful training for the students. It's highly supervised. Obviously, one doesn't want people in need to be giving inappropriate or incorrect legal advice, but that is a scheme that seems to be going very well. And of course, for that scheme to work, it means a lot of highly competent legal professionals have to donate time to supervise the students. So anything that is said in any formal way to people who come to our free law centre, that has to be monitored by a qualified professional. So that's and then the Tamdiel Prize for Excellence went to Harold Hass, who's done this wonderful work on Li-Fi, but is also an absolute brilliant public communicator. Queen's Honours, we've been doing very well. Adrian Bird got his knighthood, highly appropriate. 4 CBEs on that list in that period. And of course, Margaret Tate sitting in the room, University Court member, MBE, and then Tom Devine, easily Scotland's most distinguished historian, also getting a knighthood. And so, for me, it is a pleasure to see that how very well recognised the people associated with the university are in the honours list. And I was very delighted that Aziz Sheikh, who does just wonderful work on asthma and has really changed the way that people think about how you treat asthma through his leadership, was also recognised. A lot of people in the honorary graduations. For me, a particular highlight in Canada was Margaret Atwood it was enormous pleasure to see her, her entertainingly tease the convener of the business committee over dinner and make lots of interesting jokes at his. She made jokes at other people's expense too, but somehow Charles got the brunt of it. I mean, it's interesting to meet an author who is as engaging as her books. You know, this is not somebody who just writes in a sparkling, off-the-wall way. This is also somebody who teases in an off-the-wall and sparkling way, and that was very good to encounter. I was delighted that the former President of India, Dr. Kalam, both received an honorary degree and came for the formal opening of our India Institute, a deeply inspirational figure, quite unusual, a head of state with really serious credentials in science. This is somebody who knows how to design aeroplanes. This is somebody who knows about irrigation and dams. Very compelling person. It was a great pleasure for me that we gave an award to Anne Donovan. I don't know if any of you have read Buddha Da. Yes, good. But even if you think you can't read Scots, you will be able to read. It's all in Scots. It's 3 different voices in Scots. It's just an extraordinarily funny book. And Anne has donated time to the teaching of Scots in the university, but writes fabulous books. But if you've not read Buddha Da, I would encourage you. And if you've not read Margaret Atwood, read Margaret Atwood. But certainly, so those 2 things. Very nice that Francois Engelt we were able to honour him. But at the same time, at the same ceremony, his university, the Free University of Brussels, honoured Peter Higgs. Wonderful. 2 totally different personalities. Francois Engelt is, I think, probably one of the most expansive. This is somebody who really projects. You know he's there, big gestures. And he's obviously a pair with Peter Higgs, who, like me, is a very quiet, retiring person. And you see the two together on the same stage was wonderful. Wonderful that we were able to honour the former Archbishop of Canterbury, and a very moving event when, in the context of the work on the United Nations Charter on Human Rights, and that group meeting in McEwan, we were able to honour Malala. So we're in good shape. Anybody who's at all Macabrish will just look and say, income 781 million, expenditure 747 million. So there's a couple of pence in the gap there. So and I'm actually a deeply Macabrish person. One of my roles, if you look at my job description, the first thing it says is Chief Accounting Officer of the university. So I like these numbers. If they were reversed, I would be deeply unhappy. Research grants, 28% of income. What we haven't put up there, which is an interesting figure, is formula funding. So we've got an income of 781 million. What percentage of that is formula funding from the Scottish Government? And the answer is 26%. And essentially we've been pushing that down 1% a year now for a number of years. They're very important. We love the Scottish Government. We trust the Scottish Government. We would still like to be more financially independent of the Scottish Government. And our accounts show very clearly that each year we become that bit more independent. We created 35 new companies, issued 48 new commercial licenses, and this is obviously one of the reasons why the Scottish Government loves us, because we're very successful at that. And now within southeast Scotland, that is becoming very highly, highly visible. So if you go to the Quarter Mile, you will find Skyscanner. Now that is a firm that wasn't spun out from the University of Edinburgh, a very successful online firm that sells travel bookings. It's a spin out from the University of Manchester, but it decided that it would be better placed next to us. So it's brought a few hundred high-quality jobs, got me to open the building when it started. Immediately above them is a firm called FanDuel. Has anybody heard of FanDuel? So FanDuel, I would go after the meeting, go away and Google FanDuel. So FanDuel is a University of Edinburgh spin-out. It is a firm which is basically targeted entirely at the United States of America. And what it does is it provides gaming in, maybe you all don't know, but there's things like fantasy football. So this is something where you play to assemble an American team, so an American football team or an American basketball team or hockey team your fantasy best one. And you do this with lots of other people doing it. And then it's tested and developed against the actual games that happen in the United States. So I went and visited FanDuel on Thanksgiving, which is the obvious place to go because that's the big day for the American football in the United States. And we are talking now about millions of people in the United States paying to play this game. And of course, if you go on the website, it talks with an American accent. It looks American. I'm sure there are plenty of people in Milwaukee happily using this. If the idea that it's actually all being run from a few hundred meters from here would startle them, because it sounds American, it looks American, and gosh, it's a successful company. It's a very, very successful company, indeed. And we have seen Amazon locate. Don't know if any of you buy stuff on Amazon. Anybody ever bought anything on Amazon? Well, so the surprising thing about Amazon is that the user interface is all designed, again, it looks sort of American. It's all designed and implemented in Waverley Gate, in the former post office. And nearly everybody working there has got a master's in computer science from the University of Edinburgh. So what's happened there is Amazon, which is a worldwide firm, it can choose to where it decides to build its interfaces, has decided that the best place on the planet is not Boston, not San Francisco, it's Edinburgh. And it's staffed almost entirely by Edinburgh graduates who go into high-quality jobs. And we have IBM co-locating with us. So there is a real boom. I mean, when we look at these 35 new companies, on the statistics we've got, we expect about 80% of them to survive and stay in southeast Scotland. I mean, mostly in Edinburgh, but some will go out to Midlothian, some will go out to West Lothian. So it is. And we have, again, Macauberish. It's important to have some assets. So we have 1.7 billion of assets in the university, and that's helpful. And just galloping through the review of the year, there was during the Arts Festival, amazing event, again, which you could Google, from Namjoon Pak on technology and robots doing really interesting things. We've done a really good campaign to communicate to the students how we're improving the student experience. Learning experience, the Chancellor opened the Carbon Innovation Centre where as you've been told, you will be meeting. Wonderful that we have a Georgian building, famous as the place where Lister was, famous as the Royal House School, the only Georgian building that has got the top BREEAM rating, the top rating for environmental efficiency. Wonderful Gifford lectures from Rowan Williams. I'll tell you what the outcome, but the Research Excellence Framework, a massive enterprise, and we submitted the return at the end of December 2013, and we just a year later got the result. Lots of collaborative research, particularly with Delhi, and you will have noticed we gave the Vice-Chancellor of Delhi University an honorary degree. Next week I shall be in Delhi where we have a joint conference, doing a lot of work in biology. One of the things I'm proud to have spotted is that when we were making all the fuss about Higgs, everybody forgot about Bose. And of course Bose is the famous Indian physicist after whom the boson is named. So we had a big celebration of the Higgs boson in Delhi with Indian physicists, and I was delighted by that, and the Indians were delighted because we would seem to be the only people who remembered that the Higgs boson had a bose in it as well. So that was a nice thing. We had an online course, an online MOOC open about Scotland's referendum. £43 million worth of supercomputing out at Easterbush means now we've got about £200 million worth out there. I mean, we have dominated British university supercomputing for the last 12 years. And recently it was announced that we're one of 5 British universities to be in the UK Alan Turing Institute, the other 4 being Oxford, Cambridge, University College London and Warwick. And so we're part of a UK level enterprise on data science, very important, big enterprise, but we've got a head start because we've got the last 3 big supercomputers are run by the University of Edinburgh, and big supercomputers do tend to cost, you know, £100 million or £50 million, that sort of. This is only 43, so it's a bargain. And we launched the UK's first Department of Social Responsibility and Sustainability in a university. Launched a Go Abroad fund. One of the strange problems we have is that with the possible exception of California, it is pretty hard to get our students to spend a year abroad, whereas lots of students from abroad want to come here. So we are working very hard to persuade our students to put up with the indignity of spending a year in Paris or Florence or Kazakhstan or Moscow. But we really would like, you know, as part of the international endeavour, it's wonderful that 41% of our students come from outside the United Kingdom. It would also be wonderful if more of our students spent part of their study away. As I said, we had a lovely event where we honoured both Engel and Peter Higgs. And in addition to the MOOC on Scotland's referendum, we're doing our bit for Scottish sports capability with a very good MOOC called Understanding Football. And who knows? We have a robotic football team, we have a MOOC called Understanding Football. I don't think this university can do anything more to help Scotland progress its position internationally in the world of football. We celebrated the 100th anniversary of International Women's Day. Here are 6 of the 100 photos. If you haven't seen it, you go to the west end of George Street and you'll see these 6 and the other 94. And then top centre, you've got Anne Richards, our new vice convener of court. And of course, to her left, you've got Leslie Yellowlees, head of the College of Science and Engineering, and to her right, the university secretary. And then below to the left, Alice Brown, who is an alumnus of ours, but is also chair of the Scottish Funding Council. Natasha Gentz is in the middle, bottom, who's an incredibly dynamic and successful head of our Confucius Institute. And then on the right, you've got the Chancellor you elected, the Princess Royal. So there's some different topics. The work on visualizing a cure for cancer, I would encourage you to read about that. That is really a very, very promising use of technology and the use of pharmacology with regard to cancer. Lots of work involved in bringing together different groups of international students. The Gather Festival had 52 different types. We have become the world centre for looking at the benefits of having more than one language. So bilingualism. Professor Sorachi has done very, very well indeed. A lot of media coverage. For a long time, lots of families believed that you shouldn't clutter up a child's mind. So you would have Italian families, let us say in Scotland, who wouldn't speak Italian in front of the children because that would they thought that might not be helpful for their ability to learn English, or Polish families not speaking Polish. I myself have the benefit of being brought up in a German-Irish family where we always spoke German at home, so that was very helpful for me. But when the university did the research systematically, what it shows very clearly is that if there is a second language available, it really is in both a short-term and a long-term benefit to have serious mastery of another language. It helps the kids when they're at school. and it also delays statistically, in a statistical sense, the advance of dementia. So you get older. So bilingualism is a really good thing. And if there is anybody in the audience who's not bilingual, I do encourage you to. We have Office of Lifelong Learning, wonderful courses in many languages. So get working on it. It is never too late to learn a second or third language. I do encourage you. This was got a lot of coverage around the world, the virtual cadaver, and it's our medics and our vets have always been at the forefront of using technology, computer technology, for their work. Our work in Africa, with a consortium of 21 international partners, a lot of online work there, which of course is a very economic way of delivering training, a postgraduate training in countries like Tanzania and Uganda. It's going very well indeed. The Global Academy, the Global Health Academy, very active in this. Vice Principal Welburn, responsible for global access, and recently being very successful in getting scholarships for students from Africa to come to the University of Edinburgh to work in this area. I have to say I'm very proud of the work we do in Africa. I mean, working in Africa is demanding. It's demanding in a whole range of ways, which it is easy for you to imagine. But it is also demanding in terms of resources. I mean, one has, if you're going to work successfully in Africa, you have to treat the people you work, the universities you work with, as we work with Macquarie and so on, as equal partners. At the same time, there is no money there. If we work with Harvard, well, there's money in the United States. If we work with Africa, we have to find the money and then spend a lot of it in Africa. So the colleagues who do that, they really are, and then some of the time they're working in circumstances which, for practical reasons, are very, very demanding. So it's something I think this university should be very proud of, the work that we do in Africa. This new dinosaur got an awful lot of coverage, the long-snouted Pinocchio Rex. As I mentioned, we had the former president of India came, and that was wonderful. We subsequently had Gandhi's grandson came, spoke extremely powerfully, and the collaborations with India going apace in all sorts of ways, and really very pleased. And our office in Mumbai working very well, and we were working very strongly in Delhi, but also in Calcutta, in Bangalore. This was wonderful. This was a knockout. The terracotta warrior, everybody flocked in. They looked amazing. And should I mention the Kelpies? Yeah. So you'll be aware, this was such a success that we're now going to get the two maquettes. And when I say maquette, I'm talking about something a hell of a lot bigger than me. I don't know if any of you have not seen the Kelpies, but if you go down the motorway, if you go west on the motorway, you see the Kelpies. Well, the Kelpies are going to be like the terracotta warriors. They're going to inhabit. And I did a bit of problem solving because there was some fussing, because there's going to be a beating of the retreat in August while we're going to have the Kelpies. And I took an executive decision of the type I sometimes do and said, I think it would be very attractive to have massed pipes proceeding between a pair of Kelpies. So I think it'll make a very nice picture, indeed. So looking forward to that. We had the 10th anniversary of the Confucius Institute, and we were at the foot of the mound. More than 5,000 visitors. 2 colleagues dressed as pandas, which even in September, it's quite warm walking around being dressed as a panda, so I thought that was very noble of them. 2 colleagues dressed as pandas, but we had a pop-up tea ceremony, we had calligraphy, we had dance. It was a really fabulous thing, and a wonderful exhibition of poster art of modern China. And this is the first time, very, very interesting, because the history of China the last 100 years is very, very complex. It is, not a simple move from one style of government to another style. And what was fascinating about the exhibit was looking at, posters from China in the 1920s and 30s, immediately after the Second World War, during the Cultural Revolution in China. Again, completely different type of posters we used, so it was a wonderful exhibit. Research Excellence Framework. We submitted Research Excellence Framework, which has replaced something which used to be called Research Assessment Exercise, is a UK-wide thing. It happens every 5 or 6 years. The last time it happened was 2008. It compares all subjects and they are assessed. 83% of our research was categorized either in the top as 4-star, that is world leading, or 3-star, internationally leading. We submitted 200 more colleagues than we submitted in 2008. The quality also went up. The universities that did better than us are Oxford, Cambridge, University College London. We came 4th at the UK level. Those are all, in research staff terms, quite a bit bigger than us. We easily Scotland's top-ranked research institution. A bit more than a third of all Scotland's top research is in the university. There's 19 universities in Scotland, but a bit more than a third of the top research is in your university, University of Edinburgh. So a big win. Lots of media coverage of this. We were treated very well in the Times. And we're a member of the Russell Group. The Russell Group are the top 24 universities in the United Kingdom. The other Scottish university to be in the Russell Group is Glasgow. My assumption in the ref was that we would go up. It was obvious we would go up because of so much high quality work was being done. But most of the Russell Group would go up. In fact, we went up. Oxford went up, University College London went up. Most of the Russell Group went down. So compared to the sector, we did very well indeed. So it wasn't. So you shouldn't take from this, oh, all the British universities did better. They didn't. But we did better. We did better quite substantially, and very nice that newspapers like the Times of London and the Independent and the Guardian, as well as obviously the Scotsman and the Herald, and it's interestingly the Courier were commenting on how well the University of Edinburgh had done. Our research in sociology came top in the UK for the first time. In Earth systems and environmental science came top. Computer science has always been top, stayed top. We came easy top in agriculture, veterinary and food science, top in general engineering jointly with Heriot Watt, stayed top in linguistics, so top 6 in the UK. One thing that distinguished us from the other British universities is we did more joint submissions than anybody else. We did 2 jointly with St Andrews, physics and chemistry. We did 3 jointly with Heriot Watt. Mathematics, which in old money would have been more than 3, but this time pure mathematics, applied mathematics and statistics was put together. So we submitted jointly in mathematics with Heriot Watt, in engineering with Heriot Watt, and with architecture with Heriot Watt. And then in veterinary science, we submitted jointly with Scotland's Royal College. So we were more, just to give you an idea, across the whole of the UK, there were 13 joint submissions, but 6 of them were in the University of Edinburgh. So that shows our ability to do prolonged, detailed working with others. So they're great big. So in terms of this, what has this meant? It's been a tremendous morale boost for all staff. I was particularly delighted by the way that all of our 13,000 staff share in this success. It was very clear to me as I was visiting units before Christmas that colleagues in support roles were as delighted as the 1,800 academic colleagues whose work had been directly submitted. So tremendous morale boost, tremendous at the subject level. It means, for example, we were recruiting recently, very recently, in Byzantine studies, in chemistry, and in mathematics, all areas where we were stronger and now visibly stronger, and that's so a tremendous motivator. An open issue for us is whether or not the Scottish Government will reward this. The way the Research Excellence Framework is supposed to work is we've got something called the dual funding model, which is that this determines formula funding to provide, particularly for areas like the humanities where you can't get big grants, or laboratories which might be used by a lot of different research projects. So this then generates formula funding, and when this was originally put in place, the idea was for each pound of formula funding, we would generate about £1 of competitive funding. Well, we massively overachieved that. In Edinburgh, we produced more than £3 of competitive funding for each pound of formula funding. And so we are, as it were, curious to see whether or not the Scottish Government will recognise our success. Because essentially what has happened to this university, subjects that did incredibly well in 2008, like clinical medicine and informatics, continued to do it, and subjects that had headroom to improve did. And I was delighted that our 3 big professional schools, business, engineering and education, all did amazingly well in the ref. So that's where we are in the research excellence framework. Finally, where are we? Well, we have got immensely high quality staff and student body. You've seen how selective we are on the students. You've seen all the awards the staff get. We have a tremendous number of buoyant international partnerships, and that gives us cultural diversity on the campus, gives us collaborative opportunities overseas. And you should think of it as a kit. We've got 4 global academies: health, development, justice, environment. We've got 4 overseas offices: New York, Sao Paulo, Mumbai, Beijing. We've got lots of area studies institutes on campus for countries like Russia, China, India, United States, Canada, Latin America. And that all comes together to be a part of a very important international offer. Lots of breakthroughs which get world press. Lots of success at celebrating achievements. And with massive open online courses, we have a leadership position within Britain. It's now 1.3 million from 200 countries have studied with us with these short free courses. And if you go home and Google astrobiology or equine health, you'll find we come number 1. We come above the Wikipedia entry. And why is that? It's because we've got successful, massive, open online courses. So things are going very well indeed, and I really thank you for all the support you have given your university. Thank you very much.